Amber Sports Podcast, presented as always by the homies at Breckenridge Brewery. Really just an excuse to always pick Justin's brain on college hoops and talk Nuggets basketball with my guy Spence, who I always feel like his love for the Nuggets shines through. A guy who really takes pride in being able to see Nikola Jokic live as much as he possibly can. And with that perspective, you are ready for fatherhood, I can tell you. So you're already well on your way, Spence. Happy Monday to you all. Alyssa Marie, super producer behind the ones and twos. Fellas, how are you doing? How's your week been treating you? How was your weekend, rather?
Start with you, Spence.
My weekend was good. We had a couple of events here at the bar, so I was here most of the day Saturday. And then got to watch the Avs come back from a couple goal deficit yesterday at Ball Arena.
That was
Had
great.
a little bottomless brunch before that, so I fell asleep at 7 p.m. yesterday.
Wow, I love that.
It was quite the Sunday.
Legend status.
And I woke up at 7 a.m. and felt refreshed. It was good to go.
Beautiful.
Sunday fun day, dude.
Yeah. Oh, I took that to the max yesterday. Yeah.
I had a good weekend too. CSU came back, won an improbable game. It's one of those where the ESPN graph is way down here, and then all of a sudden they shoots way up. That was fun. The Avs were a lot of fun, and outside of Nevada blowing a 22-point halftime lead, I had a really great day gambling on Saturday because
Love that for us.
I bet on Kansas when they went down 20 against Baylor and got it at close to plus 300, which hit in a major way.
That's nuts. Big 12 always such a fun league to gamble on, man.
It's the best. It's the most stressful, and it's the one that I recommend live betting on more than doing the pregame because you kind of got to get a feel for it. But
Live vibes.
But it's
a live
definitely a
vibes
lot of
league.
fun.
Yeah. So let's start it off by talking Nuggets. As I mentioned, I do really enjoy talking hoops with both you guys, which is why we're here. Post-deadline, though, we get a week off. I am very anxious to finally see them again on Thursday. Been a little unsettling, no Nuggets basketball,
Yeah, it is. It's kind of like that reset that you need where it gets taken away from you. It's coming back, but a few nights, I'm like, what am I going to do from 7 p.m. to 10?
Right.
I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'm going to watch a show. And so I want to get back to my favorite show, which is the Denver Nuggets on the basketball court.
I know. They are the best. Post-deadline, though, Justin, how are we feeling, man? How do you think, how'd that Bones trade and all that treat you?
I mean, it was kind of a bummer how it all played out, just in terms of he was a really popular guy. Obviously, was a friend to DNVR, so that was a disappointment. I like rocking my Bones shirt, but as far as the Nuggets and where the roster's at, I mean, it's just a win. You get Reggie Jackson, you get somebody who you can now trust to run that second unit. You can save Jamal a little bit over these final 6-7 weeks, which I think is huge because you want him healthy going into the playoffs. And then you add Thomas Bryant, who's a serviceable big. So, I mean, going from potentially, having to rely on, I don't know, DeAndre Jordan or Zeke Naji or something like that down the stretch to having Thomas Bryant, a guy who's going to be able to play capable minutes for you, I think it's huge. And the overall depth of this team just feels like it's in the best position that it's been since Jamal went down, probably long after the AG trade. Yeah,
it's been a long while. And that Reggie Jackson move makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah.
Because first 2 games after the trade, it's kind of they really need that lead guard off the bench.
Right. And I think what makes the Bones move the most sad, obviously big DNVR guy, so that's personally sad for all of us, but really just the Nuggets are a weird team where they're a younger team, but nobody's on social media. Nobody's kind of outspoken. Nobody's overly fun. And Bones was that guy. We finally had that guy that would after a game, tweet something and everybody's just super excited about it, and he'd get the crowd pumped up and all that stuff. And not saying Jamal and Joker don't do that, and they're good enough players where they don't really need to do that to have their name out there. But that's the one thing I miss the most from Bones is just the community aspect of he would connect with people versus where the rest of Nuggets, Jamal's had a few posts go out that he didn't want to, and different things like that, where those are more accidental, communication with the fans, whether it be social media or in the arena when he's pumping the crowd up. So I think that's the biggest part. I think from a play standpoint, he definitely let all this talk affect his play the last couple of weeks. So even though he was in the game, it was kind of dude, this guy is not this isn't the Bones that we thought we were going to have this year.
Yeah.
And does it suck to lose a guy like that, especially as young as he is? Yes, but it's kind of like a chips all in getting Reggie Jackson, like Mr. June is one of his nicknames. Like I was listening to something and he had like averaged like 14 points, then 16 points, then 20 points in like 3 different rounds of the playoffs in just a year ago. And no, do we need that from him? No,
Right.
but is it a guy that's ready to do that? Yes, and I think it was a perfect move.
Yeah, that's huge. And the Thomas Bryant addition is really nice. I mean, that really makes a difference. But back to Bones real quick before we move on to Yoke and kind of what more can you say about, I mean, the greatest talent we'll ever see in a Nuggets jersey. Basketball's weird like that, man, where it's like there's only so many guys in the world who can warrant having the ball and being that, like, like that primary scorer on the perimeter. Like, there's only so many guys who you'll put up with everything else to warrant giving them those touches. And I think Bones had some moments where he warranted that, and that kind of like dissipated after a while.
You need role guys in the NBA, and you need guys that are willing to be role guys in the NBA. And that's just not really Bones' personality. I mean, kind of going back to what, even what Spence is just saying. He's, flashy and it's a lot of fun. And I enjoyed watching him. I think he was a spark plug. He's also the kind of guy who can shoot you out of a game and can make, really erratic decisions. And I just feel like you have a much more dependable player right now in Reggie Jackson. He's been there in the moment. Yeah. And that's what the Nuggets are going for. Like it's not really we got 2-3 years to look forward to the development and we'll see what happens. We're healthy. We're going for a title now. We're the number 1 team in the West, potentially going to have the best record in the NBA. Either you're in and you're going to like buy into this role or you're out. And we've all seen how Malone is with young guys. Like he was hard on young Jamal. He was hard on MPJ. He was hard even on Jokic, but all of them came out of it better. I don't know if you could have solved it in the way that they seemed to clash over these final 2 months.
Yeah, just kind of weird, kind of a bummer. Changing gears, Spence, I love one of your lines around the office of you go to as many Nuggets games as possible because you cherish being able to see Nikola Jokic live. He plays for Team LeBron last night in the All-Star game. 4, 5, and 6 night. Who cares? 20 minutes. That's great. But what can you say about this first half of the season, man, where he has like taken a stranglehold on back-to-back-to-back MVPs?
Well, in the quote of Donovan Mitchell, what he's doing is fucking crazy. And it's 3 straight years of like, okay, he can't be better than he was last year. And he did it again. And 1 MVP.
So
and then it's like, oh, well, he won 1 MVP. No way he's going to win 2. He can't be better. And he did it. And then it's like, all right, come on. He's won back-to-back. The Nuggets haven't had the playoff success, which is, not his fault. Like that's one of the biggest things that annoys me is the people that don't watch the Nuggets a ton. And everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but they're like, oh, yeah, get him out of the playoffs. I'm like, dude, the dude couldn't do any more in the last 2 years of the playoffs. It's not like he gets to the playoffs and averages 12, 7, and 4 and just disappears. No, the dude was doing everything he possibly could in the playoffs. So it's, the team has to be better around him, and the team has to be healthy. That's the big key. But then he goes out and he's averaging a triple-double. He, the DraftKings always offers the points, rebounds, assists bet. 45 is like comical because he's going to hit that every night. And it's like, do you go to 50? Do you go to 55? He just controls the game. And that's what I think makes a lot of people mad is, Joel Embiid can score 35 a game. But you can beat the Sixers when he scores 35. If Jokic scores 35, you're not beating the Nuggets. But he can score 20 and dominate a game in a fashion that no one else can. So it's just truly a special talent and, maybe the best overall passer since LeBron James. LeBron James is still in the league, but just a guy that he makes passes guys don't even think about making.
It's insane. I mean, Justin, that's part of the fun of being able to do these pods is giving people... Like, you're obviously an avid Nuggets fan, and I'm sure you lose your shit anytime Jokic does amazing stuff every night, but you don't get to talk about him every single day, So, it's just one of those where, like, what more can you say? I think Spence put it perfectly, but there's, like, a million different ways you can go with that. And
I think
I just want to give you the floor.
Well said. I just... coming into this year, I did place a preseason bet on Jokic to win the MVP just because, you hit the last two. Why not go for the third?
Yeah.
But I was telling myself the only way he's going to be able to get this is like if he averages a triple double. But on top of that, the Nuggets are a top 1 or 2 seed. So it's not people trying to poke holes in the stats and do the whole Russell Westbrook argument. He's done both. I don't think the voters necessarily want to give him a third straight MVP. They don't have a choice because he's the most impactful player in basketball.
By a mile.
And it's just been one of those where he went out and he took it. Like each year he somehow comes back and he improves upon what we've already seen. And like there's a chance we still haven't even seen the best of Nikola Jokic yet because based on the last 4 years, it's just an upward trajectory and who knows where it stops.
No, it's crazy. And his conditioning just gets better. We never talk about how durable he is.
No, and
it's insane.
That's part of the big reason, like Justin was saying, they don't necessarily want him to give him the MVP, but he's been the dude, like if you take your straw poll or whatever, he was there week 1 and he's still there now. It's like, okay, Embiid has a good week, he's up there. Then he has 4 games where he misses or he's hurt, and then, Tatum's had a great week, he's up there. Giannis had a great week, he's up there. And Jokic has just been that flat line of like, I'm here all the time. Yeah. He shot under 50%. Harrison tweeted that a couple weeks ago, and now it's like a thing on nationally, and he's still only 1 game where he shot under 50%,
which is absurd.
Yeah, because
that's video game numbers. That's better than video game numbers.
Yeah, everybody throws that in there. It's like, he doesn't score 35. How can he be an MVP? It's like, dude, watch the guy play. He doesn't shoot a shot that I don't think he shot a 3-pointer in like 2 or 3 weeks. So take the under on that bet. That's the only under you're ever going to get with that guy and feel comfortable about it, seems like. But yeah, he's just truly does what the basketball game needs. If he needs to have 17 assists, he does. If he needs to have 24 rebounds, he does. He doesn't force anything. And if he was truly like a look at me guy, he would average 35 a game.
If
easily.
He wanted, yeah.
And that's the crazy part is he just takes the game as it is and doesn't, if he, like you said, if he wanted to average 30 a game, he could. And he almost did last year when he needed to.
That's his true genius, though. He is so efficient, a robot-like efficiency. But then he can feel these moments. He can pick his spots, and he can do anything he wants. Whether that's getting his teammates buckets, whether that's, controlling the game by him getting buckets. He's just insane. He's a basketball dream. You never in a million years when I was a little kid creating prototypes of like different players on NBA Live, the prototype of like some 7-foot center who's like a mix of Bird and Magic, but a more efficient scorer than either. This is not, we're living in a dream. Like this isn't reality. He's just madness. I'm at a loss for words for what to say for him. I mean, it's just impossible.
Yeah, I think everybody is.
It's just impossible.
It's what makes him such a decisive topic or a divisive topic, though. It's like if you don't watch him and you love him, or if you don't watch him and you don't love him and you only see him once or twice a year and you see this like big, dumpy, like awkward looking guy who barely jumps, you're probably like, really, this is the best guy.
No.
But he's just one of those you have to see and you have to understand. It's not only what he can do, which is dominate anybody, anywhere, at any time. He's making everybody else on the floor better. And really, like LeBron, that maybe that's the only other superstar in my lifetime that I could say like consistently did that. Not 2023 LeBron. It's more about trying to break some of these records. But it's not the 30 a night. It's the 8 and the 8 that stand out as well.
Yeah, I have a hard time even thinking of basketball players from my era that had this kind of just all-encompassing impact on the offensive end.
And genuinely could not care less if it's about him or not. Like he would average 10 points a night if the Nuggets were the 1 seed, but it was effective and he was getting 15 assists. He doesn't care.
Yeah. What's crazy is the Nuggets come back Thursday against the Cavs, and then Saturday against the Grizzlies. Locking up, mathematically might be a little excessive, but they could be 6 games up on the Grizz and really kind of have that 1 seed lockdown by this Saturday.
It's insane. I actually was looking through some of my old DraftKings bets because I was like, why? Like, I thought I had some more money in there, and I found that I had placed a preseason bet on them to be the 1 seed in the regular season. Completely forgot about it for months.
Beautiful.
And now I'm
Love
like,
that.
and it's in sight, in mind, but it was out of sight, out of mind for so long. And it was like a longer shot. I think it was, I want to say like plus 1,200 or 1,100 at some point. But yeah, they could have it locked up before February's even over.
Crazy.
And that gives you the opportunity. I think the biggest key for them is they need to, like, thinking of them having every game that decides a series, most likely at Ball Arena, is huge. I mean, 27-4 at home.
Altitude.
It just, they dominate here, and it doesn't matter, who they're playing. But I think with the additions of Thomas Bryant and Reggie Jackson, the more they can have an experimental couple of weeks going into the playoffs, the better they're going to be, because it's like we know what Jokic is going to bring. It gives time. Like, Jamal's missed the last 6 games, doesn't matter. They're 7-2 in their last 9.
Oh, I know.
That's
AG's missed some time.
Yeah.
It hasn't mattered one bit.
No, if you've got 15, you can put 15 out there with whoever, and they're going to make it happen against even the league's best teams. And so I think it's huge for them to not have to necessarily win games down the stretch, where they can be like, and their schedule in April is a joke. I don't know if you guys have seen it. It's like the 10 days of April. They play like 3 back-to-backs and have a couple days off here and there and travel to Utah and then come back here. So if they can just kind of, they don't necessarily need to win those games, and they're like, hey, let's play Reggie Jackson. Let's start Reggie Jackson. Let's give Jamal a day off. Let's see what Jokic and Jackson look like together, because as we know, the rotation's going to go down to 8 or 9 guys in the playoffs. Who are those other 4? I mean, you got to think Reggie's one of them. Bruce Brown is obviously one of them if they're fully healthy. Thomas Bryant, maybe a matchup thing. Do they need a big? Do they not? And then, Zeke playing in here and there. But who's that last guy like that you're going to trust? And they need to know those guys and have that ready to rock, because Yoke's going to do what he does, and the starters are too. But who fits with Reggie the best in the second unit? It's going to be a thing that they find out.
100%.
I hope it's Christian Braun.
I love him.
He's so great.
He is. If Malone could build a player that just like does everything that he wants them to do, it would be Christian Braun. 100%.
He's a college basketball player.
Yeah,
like playing in the NBA, just the dirty
Exactly.
work, just total system guy out of Kansas.
He was so great against Luka a couple games back. That was one of my questions. Is as they've kind of found ways, even while not being 100%, who's been like your favorite unsung hero? And I think Christian Braun's one of the guys you'll hear from a lot of people. Vlatko's the other one who stands out to me. Vlatko's been amazing.
Vlatko's target Jokic. Like, he's target Walmart brand Jokic. He does everything right. Like, you never see Vlatko make a play where you're like, Will Barton's a guy that in the past, like, good basketball player, and he kind of wore out his welcome here, but you'd like be like, why did he do, hands on the head, why is he doing this? I've never seen Vlatko do that. He shoots open shots and makes it a shitload from 3 when he's open. He makes cuts, he makes plays, like, and he's not the guy that's you're going to be like, why did he do that? You never ask yourself that. You're just like, oh, yeah, he had 12 and 7 again when he starts. Like, he's just that guy that you can plug and play anywhere, and he makes the same reads, like, he looks like Jokic out there, just not, in the same stratosphere.
He's been amazing, man. He's been such a nice revelation this season.
He's a role player that understands his role.
Yeah, it's kind of nice.
Novel concept.
They could always use a few more forwards or people who can give you minutes on the wing. So I am not mad to have Vlatko and Christian Braun. I am not mad to have these guys on the show. Talk a little college hoops, but you're going to have to wait just a smidge longer for that one. On DraftKings Sportsbook, though, you've got all the hookups, NBA No Sweat SGPs, MLB futures coming up, March Madness right around the corner, college conference tourneys coming up. You got some off-season props for the NFL. Always a great time to be on the king of sportsbooks and get in at DraftKings. Use that code DNVR when you download the app now and sign up. And new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, since we're talking NBA. And then, if you haven't yet, go check out our new partner, Shady Rays, where exclusively our listeners can get the best deal right now going on at shadyrays.com when you use code DNVR, or visit them at the Park Meadows Mall, where you'll get 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. These are great glasses, outstanding quality. You can just hold them in your hand and you feel that these aren't some cheap glasses. They're great quality, great lenses, and they're already amazing prices because that's what Shady Rays does. They're like designer glasses for $50, but on top of that, with this deal, you get 2 pairs at that incredible price. It's amazing. Me and the wifey already have like 5 pairs combined. So we're loving it. I would urge you to check it out and try it yourself, because they're top to bottom quality of glasses, customer service, the deals they offer. They are premier quality. Very, very happy to be partnering with them. Very, very happy to have an adult in the room at Dove Valley. You guys are football guys, okay? You'll talk hoops. You'll get your hoops fill in this one. That was a weird accent that came out there. But I am here to talk your beloved Denver Broncos. Justin on the Draft Pod gets to give some Broncos takes. So we'll start with you, Spence. Sean Payton in the building. What's your early feeling, your early returns?
Well, you said it perfectly. There's an adult in the room now.
There sure is.
And people keep asking me, like, is Sean Payton going to make the Broncos a lot better? And I can honestly not give that take. Like, inside, the inner me says, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But now we're at a true point where 2023, will they make the playoffs? We'll see what all moves they make. I think a lot of former Payton guys, Sean Payton that is, are going to be here starting 2023, whether that's on the offensive line, the defensive line, wherever. But I think the thing that I'm most excited for is we get to find out if this talent on the roster is actually good.
Yeah.
Because if
great point.
We're not going to have a question of, does he know when to call a fucking timeout, which is, we've literally dealt with that for 7 years and 3 head coaches, not knowing how to work a fucking clock.
Or pick up a blitz.
Yeah.
I keep talking about there's
awareness.
5 different quarterbacks, different O-linemen, different play callers. This team couldn't figure out how to pick up a blitz.
Yeah.
It was absurd. It was like high school football level shit. It was crazy.
Exactly. So that's the thing is now I think the true pressure of this season is on the players because we know Payton can coach. Do we know Russell Wilson's still a good quarterback? We hope so.
No.
Do we know this defense is actually as good? They're going to go through a third DC in 3 years now.
Right.
Do we know they're actually good? We will find out. But I think there is a sense of, all right, we've gone through 3 first-time head coaches. None of them worked out. Frankly, they were all a disaster, really. And
one worse than the next. My God.
And I cannot wait to not have to worry about a coach telling our coach when to call a fucking timeout, like another coach, So I'm really excited for the fact of they should be ready to play every week. And then it's if they're 5-11 again, okay, well,
right. That tells you a
boom,
lot.
boom, boom, gone. All these players because Peyton's going to be the guy that's I also am excited for a little bit more of a, we thought the Hackett stuff was cute and I loved it. I was I love this guy. I love his Star Wars. I love that he loves Russell Wilson's wife. I mean, in a certain way, but we all thought it was cute and it turned to be a fucking disaster.
Yeah.
And Sean Payton's not going to come in here and be like, oh yeah, here's this and here's that. You guys want to do your own thing. You want to have a party today in the locker room. You guys want to have a chill Friday practice. It's no, dude, we got our ass kicked last year. And the players, I think the players need that in general. And this isn't a super veteran locker room. You got a veteran quarterback. You got a couple veterans on the defensive side, semi-veterans on the offensive side, mostly a young team. Let's see if you can play. And he's going to put them in the right position to do that.
Yeah. Well said.
I think you just needed a personality that could combat Russell Wilson's personality and ego, I guess, for a lack of a better term. Ego, I don't like saying that because I think you kind of need it to be a good quarterback, but I also think there's a degree of Russ viewing himself at a level that he just isn't, that he's a Brady, Manning type guy and that he deserved that type of status, whether it's the office or all the special treatment. And, when you're winning, that's all great, but that stuff wears on you pretty quickly. And the difficult part, I think, just for Nathaniel Hackett as a first-time head coach was trying to, balance showing him respect and keeping him happy, but also, like trying to be the guy. It didn't seem like he had any control over the situation. And Sean Payton from day one is going to come in and be like, look, Russ, you're a talented guy. It's going to be my system. You're going to do things my way. It's not going to be about Russ's quarterback trainer or what Russ wants. It's going to be about what is best for the Denver Broncos. And I think it just became too much about Russell Wilson and his brand and let's ride and all that. And if they would have won, we all would have, drunk the Kool-Aid and been all into it, but it didn't. It crashed and burned in a major way. You needed to get an adult in the room. You did it. And you got one of the, most brilliant offensive minds in all of football. After watching the Chiefs beat the Broncos for, 6 straight years, at the very least, we're going to be interesting. We might still be bad.
Yep.
But they'll be interesting at the very least, and I can live with that right now.
Yeah, and just not being in a situation where you're just squandering games at the end for like the heck of it, basically. And feeling like you can really maximize all your players, especially on offense, and have a coherent philosophy that you can build the team behind, I think is going to go a long way. The other thing that gets me excited is it's a long-term build. Like the trades are, they hurt you. It's going to take a minute to recoup that value, but it really shows like this isn't a 1 or 2 year fix. This has to be like a long-term plan that's set in motion, and hopefully pays dividends, for several years to come. Still no defensive coordinator, staff coming into play. Any preferences? Is staying in a 3-4 the right call?
I think it somewhat depends on what your personnel looks like, right? Is Singleton back in the lineup? Are you going to commit to Jewel for more than, a year? Like, I think that's where it's going to kind of get interesting. I don't see why you'd change, I guess, at this point, unless you're going to have drastic personnel changes. Yeah. But that's where I'm at. What do you think, Spence?
Yeah, I think if they can leave the defense as much the way it has been, it hasn't been the issue for years. Right. I do think getting Alex Singleton back is huge. I actually talked with Alex last week. We were down in Phoenix together. And so it's right now it's not as hopeful as I have been in the past. I tried to talk him into coming back, but my there's an agent in there and there's things in there. So that part of it is a little, but I think overall, and another guy that I feel like they can't let go is Draymond Jones. Like Draymond Jones needs to be a Bronco next year, whether that's a tag. The guy's just too good and can play too many positions.
D-line depth, he's key.
Yeah,
he's key. He's going to be very hard to replace if he's not coming back.
Yeah, and honestly, like the 4-3 is like I think it. And I mean, you play nickel 80% of the snaps anyways, and so that's why I think hopefully Darby's healthy. Obviously, you've got the best corner in the game on the other side of him. Quan Williams is a great slot corner. It's going to be interesting to see what they do at safety. Whether, I've heard Justin Simmons' name in the trade rumors. Caden Stearns looked like he was going to be promising until he got hurt at the end of last year. I don't think Kareem Jackson's going to be back, so they're going to have to fill a safety spot there, and Stearns kind of seemed like the guy to do it. But they also played Stearns a lot as like a linebacker, basically, until Alex Singleton kind of took that over and was like, hey, I can play the middle of the field when I need to in passing downs. And so it'll be interesting to see what they do personnel-wise, but I still think that they are the level of team, and just getting Sean Payton here, they just still have that credibility. Like, I don't know a lot of teams that are as bad as the Broncos the last 7 years that still have that, like, hey, we're the Denver Broncos. Elway, it's not even in the fold anymore, but he always had that, like, aura about him where it's like, you walk into his office as the GM, you're like, holy shit, that's John Elway. Right. Players see that, and I still think the Broncos have that power. I drive by Empower almost every day, the field, and that new screen, they're doing things to keep, and having new ownership. It's like everything is in place now for the team to start winning, I think.
Absolutely. As far as the DC, I don't know why anyone's low on Rex Ryan, who
he's had nothing but success with every defense that he's ever led. He's a weird, quirky guy. Who cares?
His dad literally built the 46 Bears defense. Like, what are we doing? Super aggressive. That'd be lots of fun. I actually think up front they would change a lot if that was the case. Like, now Rex hasn't coached the defense in a long while. I'm also very intrigued if they were to adapt maybe a Seattle style defense with more of that press cover 3 on the outside. And I wonder, would that help PS2? Would you maybe be lessening his impact? Those are all kind of intriguing things. Rumor swirling, though. You kind of mentioned it, Spence. Trade rumors. If you were to trade a vet on the roster to get a return, obviously, it's a bit of a Sophie's choice. You don't want to see talent leave, but inevitably you might have to see some talent go to replenish the cupboards, and especially with cheaper, younger talent. Who would you let go of?
A guy that I think I don't think a lot of people are talking about him as a trade target because he came back from injury last year and had like a mediocre season, much like everybody on our offense. But as much as I like the guy, I think Cortland Sutton's a trade target.
Yeah.
If Tim Patrick's back healthy and they put Jerry Jeudy in the right part of the field, shocking that an offensive-minded coach couldn't figure that out for 15 weeks. But I think their receiver depth is great. I unfortunately don't consider KJ Hamler like an NFL player. Like, I just don't. I don't see him being healthy for an entire season. So that part scares me. I think having Sutton, Patrick, and Jeudy is pretty insane. But I also don't like trading Cortland Sutton doesn't get you what it would have got you Pro Bowl Cortland Sutton of 2 years ago.
Absolutely.
I just do not like the 2 trade targets that everybody's talked about. I don't think it's worth trading Garrett Bowles. I think he's been all the shit aside, all the holding calls aside, like the dude's a pretty solid left tackle, and you don't just find those anywhere. And I also I don't think trading Justin Simmons is the move either. I think he's the leader on a great defense, no matter who the coaches have been. Leader in the locker room, just a good all-around dude. It all matters on value, but with NFL trades, some of them have been just kind of wild lately, and you're like, well, if you can get 2 firsts for Justin or a first and a second, like, yeah, you got it. Yeah. Every trade is makeable.
Sometimes there'll be NFL trades where it's like, oh, they just traded that dude for a 4th? Like, wow, okay, I guess.
Right, yeah, and that's where I think the NFL is actually kind of changing, is like, even to 2 years ago when the Broncos traded Vaughn, what did they get back, 2 seconds or a second?
A second and 2/3.
A second and 2/3. So, yeah, like, the value of first-round picks is, to me, going down in a trade market because it's like the Broncos basically traded Bradley Chubb for Sean Payton. Is the clearest way you can kind of look at it in a pick swap. But yeah, 4 or 5 years ago, you'd see NFL players traded for 6-rounders, and you'd be like, dude, how many 6-rounders are going to be near as good as that guy? Now, contract factors into that too, but I don't want the Broncos to get into this mode of, I don't necessarily want them to rebuild. I don't necessarily think they need to go all in for a title because you don't know how good your quarterback is. But my biggest problem with teams that quote unquote rebuild is you got to have some adults in the room and guys that have been there in order to do that, in order to build that younger talent successfully. Trading a guy like Simmons, you're like, okay, yeah, Patrick Surtain's a great player, but is he a leader in the locker room in his 3rd year? He leads by example on the field, but I don't personally believe in, even on a rebuilding team, you got to have some vets and you got to have some guys that have been around. And I personally think Justin Simmons wants to see this team turn around because he got drafted the year after they won the Super Bowl, and has never really seen a winning Broncos team, which is kind of a disservice to him in general, like, and he's not the reason they've been bad. That's for sure.
Right.
I came in thinking Bowles, but I would move Sutton as well. I think Spencer's logic is spot on, and I think when you look at the receivers that you could target in this 2023 class, there's a lot of big-bodied guys. I mean, whether it's Quentin Johnston of TCU or something like that, like you could go get a guy on a rookie deal that can make plays and is that number 2/number 3 depending on where Tim Patrick's at health-wise and all that, because that's been kind of a up and down over these last 18 months or so. But when he's healthy, he's a great option to move the sticks. Red zone, Jeudy is all over the field. Like, really, Sutton feels the most expendable in this offense.
Big time.
I would move the tight ends maybe too.
Yeah, tight ends is interesting. I'm torn on Bowles. I just, system-wise, I wonder how he fits. I've always thought Bowles would be better at right tackle, but maybe it's just not run blocking well enough to be moved at right tackle. And maybe in that sense you could move him. Also, I mean, Payton has a track record of like Taron Armstead, the best left tackle for the last half decade. It's the only like all-pro left tackle that wasn't a first rounder, basically. It's crazy, a third rounder. So, you have some optimism there. Certainly Sutton's a toughie and the Simmons is a toughie. Because I see a lot of the top safeties in the NFL, especially single high safeties, they're found later in the draft. It's IQ, which is undervalued, but in your last line of defense, tremendously valuable. But to just assume, we can find another Pro Bowl safety and leader of our defense, that's a massive gamble, obviously. Justin, we talk draft year round. Anyone you would target if you were to get a mid to late first rounder, and you swapped one of the names we just tossed around?
I like the receivers. If you move Sutton, then I'm really intrigued in, the Quentin Johnstons of the world. I like Joey Porter Jr. a lot, the corner out of Penn State.
Yep.
I think if you put him opposite of PS2, then you really have a lot of options, especially what you were talking about of like, well, maybe you do explore going cover 3 at that point because you've got the physicality.
Length for days.
And length, and you've got a safety that can roam. Like, it just opens up some versatility there that I don't know that Denver currently has with the corners. It just really all depends on, 15 versus 25 is going to be drastically different with this class and what you're getting. If you're at 15, you might be in the Quentin Johnson range. He could also go top 10. It wouldn't shock me if he did.
No, not at all. No.
But if you're 25, then I'm probably looking more at like offensive tackle range, or like you and I both love Darnell Washington out of Georgia. I think he'd be worth a late first round pick.
Right. Before we move on, Spence, any area you would kind of like your top priority to seek improvement next year?
Yeah, I think they should probably just draft like 4 offensive linemen at least. Just get guys like, Quinn Miners they found in the fifth
third,
or third round. Yeah, so I think offensive line's a huge key. I also think getting younger on the defensive side of the ball is kind of important, just from a standpoint of like you got they had like guys to learn from, and then they cut a bunch of guys, and then Draymond's been hurt. So I do think, finding, and a guy that like, I didn't grade him out, but like a guy that played actually really well towards the end of last year and was just a consistent guy was Matt Henningsen. And that's like a 6th round pick.
Yeah, yep.
And he was there and healthy and played well. So you can find those guys. I would like to see them get a receiver in the draft, especially if you move Sutton. And the receivers are just guys have inflated numbers in college because they played in a Pac-12 school or wherever, where they just throw the ball around. But also there's guys like, even like DT coming out of college way back in the day. No numbers, turned out to be a phenomenal NFL wide receiver just because of his body size. And you can find, you guys have done a lot more draft diving than I have, but there's a lot of guys you can find in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round that, people can hate on George Payton and say he's, whatever they call him now, that essentially they think Sean Payton's going to run the team, but dude has a really good track record at drafting guys. So
especially
I feel confident in that. Yeah.
And developing skill players. Yeah.
I think one thing that I think they need to keep, one guy they need to keep, Latavius Murray. I think Latavius Murray was a great pickup middle of the year, played the 2 London games, getting thrown around, but I think, Javonte Williams is obviously RB1, but I think Sean Payton can do a lot with Latavius Murray, just being that solid, guy that can come in and play 3rd down or do whatever he needs to do. But like, we don't know when Javonte's going to be healthy by. Hopefully he's just killing it and ready by the start of the season. But I think keeping Latavius Murray around, especially since he was, from what he's said out of his mouth and Sean Payton's mouth, one of the reasons Sean Payton's here. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him re-signed and give him, a couple of years, a couple million, and let him be the veteran in that running back room.
I'd love him back.
Yeah, that would be really nice. I'd love to see a little more speed at wide receiver.
Jalen Hyatt's a guy that I really like, especially late first round. Obviously you're worried about health stuff, but I would love it.
There's some little jitterbugs that popped at the Senior Bowl too that have me intrigued. What has me really intrigued is being able to offer this amazing deal. Breckenridge Brewery and DNVR teaming up to give fans the ultimate game day experience. It's just unbelievable what we're offering. And VIP tickets, Lexus Club access, parking, and DNVR merch for both Avs and Nuggets. Head to thednvr.com/BreckSweeps and complete the form. We just need you to fill out, just know the most basic info about you to pick out a winner. Must be 21 plus, and go to the link in the show description. As the game is on the 9th of March, it's a Thursday against the Kings. 2 tickets to section 102, row 5. And then the Nuggets game is Thursday the 30th against the Pellies. And it's 2 tickets courtside, row 2. Just amazing deal. Please take advantage. Enter your name. Hope to see all our community get in on the fun, because really is some outstanding deals. And right now, Illegal Pete's is the place to go here at the DMVR office. When we're hungry for lunch, we all head over to Pete's, just down Koufax from us. There's so many ways to go with Pete's. You want a nice strong margarita, they've got you covered. You're eliminating carbs or other stuff from your diet. It's a great place to eat. You just want some delicious Mexican food that they're making right there in front of you, and they'll serve and hook you up with. They've got you covered there. Illegal Pete's. Check them out, man. They just they've got it going on every which way. And check out their premium margaritas. I did a little sample testing last week. Yeah, working real hard. Actually drank on the job quite a bit last week, and it got me, Spence. It got me. You were at that sampling with the bar staff. You seem to handle that better than me.
Yeah, I shouldn't say I drink on the job more frequently than I should, but it just kind of lends itself to, when I'm in a bar, I just...
When in Rome, do it up.
It happens.
After that, I went to a Rapids kit reveal party that was open bar. So I was in trouble that day. I was in trouble. But check out Illegal Pete's. You will not be in trouble yourself. All right, boys. College hoops. Dude, locally, what's happening, Justin? Huh? We had we kind of got spoiled the last couple of years. We actually had bubble teams. Rams, of course, made the tourney last year. We've seen some really good players come out of both CU and CSU the last couple of years. Not so much this year. Feels like a bit of a dud.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a year that did not live up to expectations, really, for either side. I wouldn't say that, expectations were sky high or quite as high as they were last year going in, just with the recognition that you lost David Roddy. I mean, and you lose a first-round draft pick as a Mountain West team. That's the conference player of the year. That's going to be impactful.
Right.
On top of that, not only did they lose him, it was the timing of when they lost him. He waited till the very last day to decide if he was going to declare or not, or come back. The CSU coaches respected that, obviously, as they should have, give him all the time that they need. I mean, they would have loved to have him come back. But because he took so long to decide if he was going to go pro or not, it really limited the recruiting pool that they had to go out and get him. They still were able to sign a couple of guys that are pretty great. Patrick Cartier is a D2 All-American. They brought him in. He has one of the best field goal percentages in the country. He's top 10 right now, best in the conference. But the other guy that they signed, Josiah Strong, he's played like 1.5 games. He's been suffering from complications of mono. He's a career 45% three-point shooter at 4.5 makes a game. Wow. So at a high volume, he was a guy that was supposed to be their 3-and-D, their wing. It was just one of those situations where a lot of weird things kind of added up and make sense to why they've struggled. Now, I would still say they've not won as many games as they should have, even on top of that. They should have been better than they were. But it makes sense that they've taken a steep drop back, given, you lost Roddy. Your best signing, or at least in theory, on paper from the offseason, doesn't end up playing. That's a really tough spot.
Yeah.
You don't have the continuity that you've had the last 4 years. You lose a couple of guys to transfers in that way. It's been a lot of weird stuff. Isaiah Stevens missed, about 10 games with an ankle injury, or a foot injury. Now he injured his ankle again. It's been one of those years where when it rains, it pours. I also think CSU could be dangerous come conference tournament time. They've kind of figured it out with their rotation of late. They're finally getting healthy for the first time all season. I mean, we see weird stuff happen. 2 years ago, Georgetown as an 8 seed ended up winning the Big East. And, I think it was Oregon State as a 5 won the Pac-12. They stole CSU's bid.
Right.
Weird stuff kind of happens that way. The Rams could get hot. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, Rams, Air Force, Buffs, anyone you would place like $1 on to be a Cinderella and make the tourney completely unexpected with just an amazing little conference tourney run, I should say.
I'm going to go CSU, not because I'm a Ram guy, but just because Isaiah Stevens. I think he's the best player out of any of those three respective rosters. He's the most experienced. He's the most likely to take over a game. If you're CU, I mean, Tristan Da Silva certainly could get really hot, carry you through the Pac-12. I just think CSU would probably have like more to go for, I guess, at that instance. Like if you're CU, it's kind of more about next year and all these signees you have coming in. Like the future is very bright for this program under Todd Boyle. Air Force has a bunch of freshmen. They've already exceeded expectations.
Right.
So like they're on the right spot under Joe Scott. For CSU, you kind of have, this veteran roster that was supposed to do better. And, Isaiah Stevens, Tanjay, guys that have played a lot of big moments. I could see them getting hot in Vegas just because they've been here and they played together in this moment.
Right. Moving past locally, March around the corner. This is when a lot of people, myself included, we kind of start teaching ourselves, this team, that player. Who are the teams and players to keep in mind? Either of you,
Well, one thing I'll say is I haven't done a full March Madness get ready yet.
Yeah.
I've seen a few stats here and there that are like the catch-all stats where it's like the last 10 national title winners have had this efficiency on offense and this defense, whatever. And so there's a few teams in there, but I don't know if I can ever remember an NCAA tournament where there's not a team that's like, whoa, they should win it. Like they're better than everybody else. Like Alabama's been a one, Kansas is good, but they lose like you're seeing blowouts in games that of two ranked teams and the lower seeds winning. So I'm for one excited of just the chaos of what seems like it's always chaotic no matter but if you look at the Final Four the last 3 or 4 years, you probably could have, being smart and just picking the better teams, could have predicted most of the Final Four. This year, I don't know if I can say that, I haven't watched a ton as much as I will the next 2 weeks leading up to the tournament, but overall, I think it's just going to be a chaotic NCAA tournament.
Yeah, Purdue just got upset. I'm seeing Kansas, for example, has the 4th shortest odds on DraftKings to win the NCAA tournament. They're dogs tonight to TCU.
Well, I mean, that's just the strength of the Big 12 is insane. They're going to get 8 teams in the tournament.
It's also been the year of the home dog.
That too. And
right?
So that's
you're
why,
always on that. No sport more than college hoops. The home court advantage matters. So yeah, just picking back off that.
Yeah, I mean, I really like Kansas. I think they're the most complete team that I've seen in the Big 12. I think they have the biggest firepower just in terms of when they get going with DeJuan Harris and Grady Dick. Their offensive potency is just hard to deal with. Baylor is really dangerous as well, and that's why it's kind of intriguing to me. You can actually get them to win the Big 12 at plus 800. They're
Baylor,
only a game back right now, and they play the 2 teams ahead of them in the standings. So they have an opportunity to overcome this. It's interesting that you're getting that much value, but I think it just has to do with Kansas and the confidence that the odds makers have in them winning down the stretch, especially at home. They have the best home court advantage in all college basketball.
There you go. Any other juicy
Creighton potentially to win the Big East is interesting to me.
Plus 240.
They're one game behind Marquette, and they play tonight, I believe, or tomorrow. So you have an opportunity to get there.
The book does this, Spence. They overvalue who's in the lead in the standings. They give you great value on the next team that's right there.
Yeah, and you can get that even in the Big Ten as well right now. Purdue's kind of struggling, and I think there's other teams in the Big Ten that, shockingly enough, they're having kind of Cinderella type years, teams that you wouldn't think would normally be there.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're -5. I want to say -5,000 to win the Big Ten right now.
-2,000.
-2,000, and there's just a bunch of other teams that are right there that you can get crazy good odds on.
Yeah.
Boise State at plus 280. They're only a game back as well. They host San Diego State next Saturday. So not only do they have an opportunity to play SDSU, they get that game at home. I mean, San Diego State, they're a little up and down offensively at times. They're really experienced. So I feel like at this moment, I have a hard time seeing them kind of choke down the stretch. They host CSU tonight. Maybe CSU beats them. All of a sudden, you're going to get basically even money at Boise State.
Right.
So I would I would consider it just the fact that they still host them and they've, really come together of late. They're also getting healthy. They finally got Marcus Shaver back. It's worth sprinkling. My pick was Nevada a couple weeks ago. I got it at plus 500. All they had to do was win. They were up 21 at half. Would have coasted to the end, would have won, but that's why you can't trust Reno. You can't ever trust Reno. That's why Jay Norvell got out of there.
That's right. These kids, you never know what you're going to get. Even Arizona, and this is one you and I have talked about, to win the pack, plus 450. Seems like good enough value to me.
They could get hot enough at any point. Yeah. Like, they have the talent to go with anybody. They've been inconsistent, much like Kansas, but they have the firepower to go with anyone.
Yeah, have fun with it. Know your stuff. Listen to Justin. And it's going to be a good March Madness. It's going to be a good March of college hoops in general. Fellas, thank you so much for doing it. Check Spence and all the great stuff him and Mitch are doing at Big Drive Energy. Of course, Justin with all his amazing coverage on Rams. We'll be doing DNVR bets in just a minute. Tune into that for your boy and his picks. On behalf of Alyssa Marie, rest of the crew, thank you. Have a great week.